Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final panel of the day. How's everyone doing? Pretty good? Good, good. All right, cool. Don't worry, we'll have a little audience participation. So we'll keep it lively for this last panel before happy hour and tapas time. My name is Pratap Penumalli. I helped build early products at Google, like Chrome and Google Domains. So I've very much forged in the Web 1 and Web 2 fires. But with that said, have taken a keen interest to Web3. I currently lead an advisory to help early stage founders build their next companies. So we bring product and technical expertise to early stage and growth stage companies. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing a bunch of technical experts and product and business leaders here with this panel. Before we get to our esteemed panelists, though, we have our topic, which is onboarding the next billion users to Web3. So as we had some of our early conversations before the panel, we were wondering, okay, first of all, what does it even mean to be onboarded to Web3? Is just having a wallet enough? Is connecting and using that wallet for some purpose enough in terms of engagement? Is it the total number of users who have engaged with Web3 at all? So we heard actually in an earlier panel today a clue which said that about 75 million users worldwide, about 75 million people have engaged with Web3 in some way, shape, or form. So we'll talk about that. But the audience participation part was, let's take a guess as to how many people we have in terms of connected wallets total. And there's some debate on this, but we looked at a few different sources. So I want everyone to just kind of stretch out, put your hands in the air, for now. Okay, now keep one hand in the air. Okay, everybody's got one hand in the air. This is good. All right, cool. So let's think about total number of wallets. And again, there's some debate here, so I'm just going to use log-based 10 numbers here. And we're going to say either 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or a billion, and we're done, and we can all go to tapas right now. So today, how many wallets do we think are created and connected today? So keep your hand in the air if it's tens of thousands. Okay, we already think, some people think maybe not even. How about hundreds of thousands? Yeah, okay, good. Keep your hand in the air if you have that, yeah. Keep your hand in the air if you think there are millions. So anywhere from 1 to 10 million. Okay, all right, so keep your hand in the air then if you think there's tens of millions, between 10 and 99 million wallets already. Okay, now we're all down to the last few. So we have, so does anyone think we're above 100 million wallets currently? Okay, great. And then a billion, we can go home? These people are just hungry or thirsty, I think. They're just like, let's get out of here. Okay, good. So that's kind of the landscape. So we peaked at about the 1 millions, which I think is about right. Where Evgeny, I think you mentioned. What did you hear as the latest number in terms of total connected wallets about?
I think it's my assumption is few hundreds of millions.
Okay, all right, cool. Bogdan, did you have one? We talked about this actually at the happy hour yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me to think globally because we are specific. So I would agree with Evgeny.
Yeah. Well, actually, we looked up. I think we had data from Fireblocks and a couple others, which said 1.6 million was all we had in terms of wallets. So it's actually much lower than we think. And then again, there's some wallets that are created for us as orphaned and all that stuff. But that gives you an idea that we have a long way to go. And so with that, with that context, we have a long way to go. And then where we sit today, I'll turn it over to our panelists in a row here, and maybe you can just introduce yourself. And with the context of what we just discussed here, maybe talk about what are the metrics that you use today to think about adoption and engagement within your organization. So I'll start with John.
Hey, I'm John Woods. I'm the CTO at the Algorand Foundation. And Algorand is a killer layer 1 blockchain. And so my previous work, I was the lead architect on Cardano. I led architecture and applied cryptography for Charles. And then prior to that, I worked on Ethereum. I've also had jobs in the normal world as well. I worked for Citi and Ericsson and other normal companies. I think at Algorand, we think of adoption as volume on chain, so the number of transactions, of course, and of course, the number of active wallets. Ultimately, I think that's part of our strategy. If you look at the things that we've been doing over the last kind of year, it's focused on reducing friction for the user and making the developer experience absolutely great. And so if you can make it easy to build on these platforms, and what are things like Algorand, Ethereum, Cardano? They are open source, operating systems. They're decentralized operating systems. They execute code, but they do so, rather than right in front of you on your laptop, they do so in a decentralized context. And so, just like regular operating systems like macOS and Linux and Windows, you've got to make it easy for people to realize their vision and to build their enterprise products on your platform. And so with that, yeah, I think I would focus mostly on transactions per second and indeed the number of active accounts.
Hey, hello, I'm Bogdan. I'm in startups for maybe 15 years. So I'm like doing startups for my whole life. Initially, I was like a developer there, maybe then a senior developer, and then the team lead, and then CTO, and then CTO co-founder. And now I'm CTO co-founder of a Web3 company. Yeah, we're Unstoppable Domains in the NFT field. We do naming systems based on Ethereum and some other chains. Well, the way we adopt people, I didn't want to go into bare example, but I have to, is that, for example, what we do is we make sure people can buy some NFTs without having any other token, right? This is a very serious problem for people to onboard, that if they want to buy some NFT, first they need to buy Ethereum, right? And we solved at least that problem, right?
Working? Great. Hi, I'm Tim Walther. I'm group manager for Web3 and Metaverse at the Volkswagen Group. So Volkswagen Group is probably one of the brands here in the room, and probably a lot different to everyone else here in the panel, because actually what we are talking about here is not our natural habit. We sell cars. Volkswagen Group basically is not only the Volkswagen brand, but it's also Audi, Porsche, Skoda, Lamborghini, Bentley, and a few more. So I think we are about 12 brands. But what we've seen a bit more than 2 years ago, that with basically the Trojan horse of NFTs, we've seen the potential of Web3 and what we can actually, and how we can use it to engage with our audiences in a much better way than we did in the past. So I'm looking more with the lens of a marketing person here, less with an investing opportunity, obviously. But even there, we see great potential, and we've started a lot of tests, a lot of innovation projects, and a lot of serious projects within our brands in the last 2 years. And yeah, this is me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Evgeny. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Cryptology. I'm for a long time at this industry, since 2013. I had my own company back at the days of named purchase with me. It was about how to accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, convert it in BTCE to fiat. So I saw the adoption of blockchain and how it's adopted by the end users. So I was back actively into blockchain industry back in 2017-18 on the boom with the ICO. I was co-founder of SEDEX. This is a diamond exchange. So if we are speaking about adoption, we were saying blockchain is not about only trading. Blockchain is resolving problems, day-to-day problems. So at SEDEX back days, we wanted to resolve how people trade diamonds. Basically, diamonds is unfungible assets, very tiny, very expensive. Blockchain was looking back days as perfect solution as NFT, before it was popular. And then I saw the next adoption where we're working on a project named Footies for sport events, sport organizers. So today's Barcelona playing in the Champions League, you will see very active secondary market outside the stadium. So blockchain is exactly how it can be resolved. The problem of the match day, the reselling tickets, and creating an experience. So as I said, like blockchain can be with us in many, many domains and meet us on day to day. In the last year and a half, I work in cryptology with one focus. So According to the World Bank, about 1.7 billion people around the globe are unbanked. We look at the countries such as Morocco, Egypt, Vietnam, Mexico, huge population and huge percentage of unbanked. So still the question remains, how many people can get access to the services? How many people can access to the money? And doing the day-to-day actions such as paying for electricity bill and so on. So from my side, the main parameter is how can we educate the user with simple UI, and still it's a trade-off always, right? UI versus security. So to stay secure, to give good experience and still be able to onboard people without non-technical knowledge and give them access to crypto, trading, and new opportunities.
Go here. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for that context. Let's actually stick with because you mentioned as a brand, Tim. So let's actually stick with partnerships. So again, if we're going to get to 1 billion, we're on this journey together. We're going to need to add users and value and reduce friction by way in big groups. So the 1.7 billion unbanked. I mean, that's a great way that entire countries potentially can onboard users with the advantage of either blockchain technology or to Web3 to bring in more users in mass. So maybe using examples from your own platforms or brands, maybe you can speak to, as a group here, a conversation around finding users by way of partnerships and mass.
Love to. It's a great opportunity to announce that Algorand is partnering this year with AI. That was a joke. Dry crowd, okay. No, I think Algorand's had some major partnerships. We've partnered with FIFA and other organizations of that size. I don't think it's very fruitful, to be quite honest, if I'm being honest. I think it leads to some excitement for a week or two, and then it goes nowhere. I think a lot of these organizations are more interested in potentially, exploring the technology, but they're not fully committed to it because they don't fully understand it. And indeed, how can they be fully committed to it when there is, as you've already described, only a couple of million people who are actively using it? Yeah. It wouldn't make sense. And so our focus is more grassroots. Our focus is on making a platform that's available for everyone. Yes, it's important that the platform is suitable for enterprise-grade applications, and enterprise is very much part of where we see major applications on the chain. We see them as being enterprise-grade applications for major firms. But also, just like Linux, we got to make Algorand, I think the Linux of blockchain, the platform that people choose to build on as the individual. And so partnerships are very important. Still, I think more important is the individual. And the points made about the unbanked, we enjoy in this part of the world, in Europe and the US, certainly we enjoy a financial system which is incredibly mature and generally quite inclusive. But that's certainly not the case in the majority of the world.
Other thoughts? Other thoughts?
Yeah, we also face this problem where organizations not engaged with Web3. They engage, but they have a lot of enthusiasm, but they have no idea how they want to use the technology. What's making it even worse is that they're not ready to do effort. Right, they are not ready to think Web3 or getting to know that technology is pretty difficult at this point. So our main partnership are with companies that are already in the Web3 field, like Polygon or Binance. So I believe it's still like the technology needs to be improved before we go there, because there are still a lot of downsides to it, like the one I mentioned before. With the fact that you need to first buy the native token of the blockchain before buying any other token in the blockchain. Let's solve this first and then go to other organizations.
I think looking at brands and looking at the web or looking at the use cases that we've seen in the past years, it's clear you need to make sure to understand what is the motivation. Why are brands actually entering Web3? Why should they, right? And if the answer or the expected answer is decentralization, that's probably not the case why the brands are entering it, right? There's multiple layers, and every case is obviously different. But I think in general, there's lots of opportunities. The opportunity of engaging with communities in a whole new way than we did before, right? In the past, for example, you could either be, I don't know, a fan of a brand, or you could be investing in a brand with the stocks. And now you have something basically in between. You have a potential product where you can be a super fan, you can be really, really close to your brand, you can engage with them, you can do co-creation, but also you're kind of invested, so you become an ambassador and so on. So the potential there is huge. And if you look at a brand, like a luxury car brand, for example, let's take Bentley, Lamborghini, whatever, from our brands, for example, or from the other brands. And you think about those kind of brands are having more than 30 million fans on social media on one platform alone. But for example, our brand Lamborghini is only selling and can only sell 10,000 cars a year. So how can you actually use this huge audience? What can you offer them other than, I don't know, maybe a T-shirt with the logo on it, or a towel or something like that? How can you create exciting products in the digital space for younger generations also, that actually use the power of the brand and can serve as a much closer relationship to the brand? So this is the potential, this is the positive side. I think also, as I said, I'm a marketing person, and I look closely on how large is the audience that I'm actually able to talk to, and how much is the invest that I have to take there, and how much engagement can I take with what customers, and what can be the outcome. And I think this is also a learning, or this is a fact, that the Web3 bubble or the Web3 space is still very, very small. And if you look at the overlap of potential customers of some of our brands, there is still a challenge, right? So I think there's still a long way to go in terms of UX. We've spoken about it. In terms of security, lots of things, but it doesn't hold us back on keeping exploring this.
Maybe, can I just quickly build on what Tim said?
Sure.
Because I totally agree with you. And you know, I've worked, like I said, on Cardano and Ethereum, so I've worked with lots of big companies who've built blockchain solutions, right? When you're building enterprise-grade apps for a large customer base, you want to have as simple a solution as possible. The more complexity you add, the more difficulty you're going to have maintaining and executing a user experience that is in keeping with your brand, okay? And so, really, I would encourage companies that are thinking about building on blockchain to identify whether or not the value proposition of their app falls into the following kind of three categories. Disintermediation, where you're removing some kind of middleman, because blockchain's pretty good at that. Data, the veracity, so the chain of trust, or the authenticity or provenance of a product, a luxury good like a Lamborghini, for example. Blockchain's pretty good at that. And I think decentralized identity or self-sovereign ownership, self-sovereign identity, blockchain's pretty good at that. But if it's not one of those three things, and if your app or your product doesn't benefit from adding the value proposition of those three things, I think you probably don't need a blockchain.
Yeah, worth underscoring. Disintermediation, provenance of some sort, or self-sovereignty. I think that's a really good way to think about actually when people get down to what the value that you might be able to add.
And by the way, when we see companies that embrace Web3, I hate that word, but use blockchain, right? When we see companies do it and they don't give their users that self-sovereignty. Oh, you can buy an NFT for the World Cup. Oh, but sorry, you can't move it off the website. Yeah. When they do Web3, but they violate these principles, it pisses users off. Right? They get the opposite effect of what they want.
And then, Evgeny, anything else to add on the partnership side, or even to add, because you had, as a lot of people probably saw, right, a prime location today with the Cryptology booth. So any insights that you heard that you'd want to summarize? We're getting towards the end of day one here. So in terms of what people approached you with, what types of interesting partnerships were out there, or ways that people were growing in this market?
Before it, there is an interesting discussion here. So I think that the key about the partnerships is, big brands and big names like Lamborghini. Yeah. So we see it, the adoption of Web3 is, look at Polygon Labs, right? They're doing a partnership with Starbucks, very successful. Partnership with Nike. So we look that the big brands, the big names with high engagement, they bring a lot of new users into Web3. So we all agree that some industries will move into it, like trading for sure will move onto blockchain. We don't know which protocol exactly will win. There are many great competition, but it will move, loyalty points, and so on. So the big companies, the big volumes and passion will bring this technology into the masses. We are here to the question what we see in the today here at Barcelona. So we see a lot of companies that come into us offering, again, IBAN and financial services solutions. So it shows that the banking system has something wrong. If there is, you need so many intermediates, and there is a place for all of these intermediates in the market, it means that the banking system is wrong, and we are in the right direction of resolving this problem that is going across the world. Yeah, so if you cannot open easily a bank account and you need some intermediate of a friend of a branch manager to sign you a contract, something is very, very wrong. So yeah, this is about the partnerships that I see. Also, AML and compliance. Yeah, I see here coming to our booth. Also, it becomes an issue. MiCA is coming next summer. Everyone talks about it without any clear picture how it's gonna be implemented or how it be affected. Because
Can you describe what that is, just for any normies like me out there?
yeah, MiCA is EU regulation of crypto assets and set of rules that crypto exchanges like us will need to keep in order to be aligned with the regulation. So it was like a big jump because it was like officially the European Union recognized crypto. Yeah, it's never knew if it's an asset class, it's a security, it's a token. What is this? So MiCA was the first time that it been set rules about it, and they accepted it as the regulators. Now we're coming to the point how it will be implemented. Some parts of this, it will not be Web3. It will be like a banking system, which we all want to change because, as I said before, it's broke, right? It's broke. So it will be interesting. I personally, again, this is my humble opinion, and it's not advice, but I believe that it will not go in 2024, and it will be postponed because comes the feedback from the industry, from the players. Again, the regulator doesn't want to kill the crypto companies. We see it in the United States with the SEC. Yeah, it's going further, and SEC lose. They lose in the court. So I hope that the European regulators understand it and they will listen to crypto companies, to exchanges. Yes, regulation is important, regulation is welcome, but still there is a unique things in Web3 that we don't want to lose.
And by the way, you know, I worked at the European Central Bank, I worked at the Irish Central Bank, and so I've been indoctrinated into their thesis, right, around what is their job. When you're there, week one, you go in, they play these propaganda videos for you, and you learn, right? And the number one thing you leave after watching the propaganda is, you leave with, we are here to protect the consumer, right? And so I'm all for protecting the consumer. I think that's a great idea because not everyone is sophisticated like the guys you had on the last panel who are savvy investors. People need protection. But at the same time, you don't want to choke the life out of an industry just because it doesn't fit your agenda. That's not protecting the consumer, you know?
So where are we in that journey right now? So it sounds like there's some sort of a, Evgeny thinks as well, there's some sort of a bridge, or we're not going to go directly to all the benefits in the financial system of decentralized banking for all, for 1 billion people in the next 1 or 2 or even 5 years. But what does the bridge kind of look like in the meantime? Not asking you to predict, you know, what regulations are going to pass or not pass, but continuing on the existing thought of, you know, regulation compliance and addressing maybe some of the headwinds, or having like a positive future coming out of this bear. How does it look different from previous?
Yeah, I think that what we will see is that more and more people will use solutions like on-street buying. So we see it in the third world countries that unbanked people want to save some of their savings. So they have basic Android devices. There is this street points where they exchange some cash into stablecoins, USDT mainly because USDC has its other discussion, how it's backed by BlackRock, but they want USDT. They want to have some safe zone about hyperinflation and some accessibility. So yeah, regulators, if we are talking about third world countries like Morocco and Egypt and Cameroon, Nigeria, at all these countries there is like very complex regulation and set of rules, etc. But the people who use this money, they find a workaround to go into this possibility to have something that will save their funds. So they will use Android and they will change small portions of money, but still they will go there against the regulator, because I think that the common population, as mentioned here, the regulator wants to protect, but it's not always accepted by the masses that regulator wants to protect, okay? They see how regulators drive Lambos and their sons driving Lambos and going to vacations, while, the people on the street see hyperinflation. So it will be a battle, yeah? So regulation is good, regulation should protect, and we as the market leaders, we should be aligned with the regulation, but still you need to get access to the people of their money to have their protected, and not just as the regulator want to control them.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, thanks. That's really helpful. And then Bogdan, so what is it, 2-3 years ago, you suddenly, especially in this room, we're sitting side by side with someone being like, you have to get your .eth domain. There's going to be, people are just going to start sending you ETH, and it's you must do it, right? And so that's where I was sitting in I think Art Basel, Miami a couple of years ago, and I was like, great, I snatched up my my domain. So in the domains world, it should everyone who buys a car from Volkswagen Group get their .tld domain and then start to stream a bunch of value there, or keep your car records, or share all your pictures? Are there any really interesting use cases for the real estate in that sense of being my mailbox to Web3 being a domain name?
I think like the idea we promote is that the domain can be your identity in the internet. It's like you have login with Google, you have login with Facebook, but why you don't have login with decentralized ID that only you can own, right? And this is the biggest market. Whether we are ready for this market to start it, it's a bigger question, and we investigated it a lot, and it seems that no, we should start somewhere else, and that's what you were talking about, right? Because with this decentralized ID, it's so global idea, and it's so big market that there are so many big players there, and they weren't gonna make their turn later because they want to see how smaller players will make their turn. And that's where what we can do. The use cases you mentioned, they're more like fun, right? But like even like placing your website, I would say I would want to move my personal blog from traditional domain to NFT domain, right? How about that? That's similar technology like WordPress or something, but on the decentralized ID.
Great. All right, cool. We're almost out of time, and we're almost done with our day. So let's go back to our laboratory here and think about, what do you think, 5-10 years? 5 years. 10 years is like, we're dealing in dog years, right? So 10 years is like, who knows what the world will be like. How many people do we think are going to be onboarded to Web3 if we're using that 1.6 million wallets created today, or if you want to use one of the metrics that you alluded to at the beginning of our conversation? Where do we think, in terms of the trajectory of where we'll be in 5 years, in a lightning round format? Where do we think we'll be?
I guess I would hope in the hundreds of millions of users, and I hope with privacy by default, because when people realize that their johnwoods.algo or the johnwoods.eth can expose their entire spending history, and indeed like how much money they have, we have very serious problems, and that's something that has to be solved before we onboard billions of people. Financial privacy is important.
Yeah, I think it's also hundreds of millions, especially like if you take the previous speaker, his estimate was like 76 million. I think pessimistically it's 200 million and optimistically it's 500 million.
I wouldn't say a number because it doesn't really matter to me that much if it's 100 million and they engage maybe once a year or something like that. What I do hope is that people get, as younger generations get, that digital ownership is a thing, that working with wallets is a real benefit, that blockchain can secure a lot of things much better than we did in the past. And if we achieve this, I'm happy.
It will be interesting to look, first of all, PayPal. Yes, PayPal has 435 million users, active users. And they're moving into with PayPal USD. So we will see the adoption. First of all, it's 435 million users, some of them already in crypto, some of them on new. Also interesting factor that we will look in very close in the future is WorldCoin of Sam Altman. Who doesn't know, Sam Altman is the founder of ChatGPT, OpenAI. So they have this project that scans the eye and gives you coins named WorldCoin. It makes a lot of hype. You see, like in Germany, in Spain, there are not such long lines to make a scan. But in third world countries, especially in Africa, you see lines of people because they'll say, okay, we don't care. We get like $25, which is a lot. And they give their privacy, but they're fine with it. So it's a very interesting experiment. The regulators, again, in many countries are discussing their privacy, but we will see. It's very interesting. It's ambitious projects. Not sure that it will be in this format as we know today with WorldCoin, with the eye scanning, but it definitely goes into this direction, as Bogdan says, like you have the identity of the wallet that works with you. So it will be interesting to see how new approaches besides private key that you need to store and a piece of paper under your pillow goes into the mass adoption with such projects as WorldCoin and PayPal.
For sure, for sure. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think the friction going down, the kind of the invisibility of a lot of the underlying technology being out there, brands and other sources of mass adoption won't really care whether we still call it Web3 or anything like that. But at the same time, we're starting to see a lot of that value being discovered. So we look forward to going into the next 5 years and beyond and the next billion users with all of you. Please join me in thanking the panelists today. And have a great evening, everyone.